The beauty with adventure racing is that you can be kind of good at all of the sports. You can train all of them, but you don't have to go overboard with them. Everything becomes training. And for us as parents, well, when we became parents, we actually started to dial in and focus more in on our training. And we actually became better adventure racers because we were actually more focused with our time. So a lot of people think from the outside that we train all the time.
Or that to do a successful adventure race, you need to train, 15, 20, 30 hours a week. And we found that that's not really necessary at all. The most important thing with training is consistency. And what I mean by that is, you can't have one week where you train a lot and then the next week where it's super busy and you barely do anything. You want to try to carve out whatever the amount of time that you can commit to training. And that could be as little as 5 hours a week, even 3 hours a week. I have a twin brother that's been very successful, being very regimented with 3 hours a week of training. But so whatever your time is, you want to make sure that you can be consistent with that amount of training. So one of the things that we really like to think about in terms of that is the minimum effective dosage. It's like, if you can only commit to 5 hours a week, if you get a few extra hours in one week, that's great. But as long as you're keeping up that 5 hours a week and you have some idea of how to train effectively, then you're going to continue to make gains, right? So,
and what really helps me is figuring out when in your schedule, when in your everyday life, you can do it, and tell and ask those around you in your support system. So Jason and I, we're obviously a couple and we have 2 kids, and we have a very hectic life with many different things going on in it. And one of our biggest priorities, though, is training and letting the other person train when they need to. So we've worked it out so that I'm more of a morning person. I get up first thing and go. And then he is more of an evening person. And so in the evening, he takes off and goes. And we've worked that out within our relationship. And we really support one another and get each other out the door.
Yeah. And this can change. But so if you're trying to implement something, step one is to really have a conversation with those around you. Let them know that this sport is important to you. It's exciting, even if you're just getting into it, that this is something you want to try and that training is a part of it. Have those conversations. Have the conversations with your support staff, your family, your kids, your loved ones, and get their buy-in. And most of the time, that's the easiest thing to do. Can I do 4 hours a week? Can I do 8 hours a week? How can we work this in? And the great thing about doing that is you will start to get accountability. You will start to have people around you that help that framework hold. And if you do it for even just a couple weeks, you'll get a pattern. And what you really want as an athlete is to develop a training pattern so that you can maintain that consistency. It feels easy. And then you just have these gains that start to happen. And then realistically, the best reason to train is because it makes the races more fun.
Hurt less.
Yeah. Or they hurt the same amount, but you go faster. So you kind of are reaping these rewards. So if we talk a little specifically about kind of basic training, most amateur athletes train too hard for too long. It's a really easy pitfall that we fall into where we think, oh, I got my training window. I need to feel like I'm getting a good workout. But all the research for ultra endurance, and whether you think of it or not, is adventure racing is an ultra endurance sport. The shortest race is like 3 hours, and those are hard to find. Normally a short race is 6, 8 hours, and a moderate race is 24 hours. So that's definitely in the realm of ultra endurance. So what you need to realize is the mentality of training does not have to be psyching yourself up so that every time you go out, you're going to work hard and feel like, oh my God, I've got to do another hard workout. About 80% of your time should be done at a very low intensity. Not walking, but at an intensity you can maintain and that feels easy. And the great thing about this is those type of trainings, they don't shatter you so that when you come home to your family that's waiting for you to cook dinner or play with them, you're not just like, oh my God, all I want to do is lay down and go to sleep, right? So a lot of your training feels very for like a bit of, what do you say, restorative? Like it energizes you. You go out, you do an hour run, you know, at like a moderate heart rate, and it feels good.
Yeah, it's really
Right.
good for, I call it my mental health training.
Yeah. And so a lot of the training is that. And then a couple times a week, you want to be training a little bit higher heart rate, closer to threshold. If you
More
don't know
like
what these,
twice a week.
if you don't know what these words mean, we'll kind of do, you know, there's going to be some more training information, more specifics, but really this is just top level. Don't obsess over the amount of time, set a schedule, and then plan on most of that time being easy to moderate, where you feel good training and you don't actually feel like you're working out too hard. And then a little bit of that time being hard enough that you're excited for the next training to be really easy. That's a, you know, without any metrics, without any heart rate, we don't need to get super complicated when we're starting off in this sport and trying to get fitter. We just have to keep a couple of those things in mind.
I think of it as 80% of my zone 1, which is that mental health, and then 15% as a higher heart rate, maybe intervals, going climbing up hills for many minutes, and that's about twice a week. And then maybe once a week, what we call VO2 max. Again, we'll talk about this later, but a really high, all you can get out of your workout, maybe
Shorter intervals.
short 1 minute intervals 5 times is an example of just really kind of stressing the system a little bit, but that's only 1 time a week.
Yeah. Last thing that confuses a lot of people is this is a multi-sport, multi-discipline sport. So you need to be training biking, you need to be training paddling if you can, and you need to be training foot, running, trekking, hills, stuff like that. And the great thing is for overall fitness, you can kind of fit that in with what you feel good with, but we recommend that you figure out what your least favorite is, and you spend more of that kind of easy time, that kind of moderate heart rate, easy heart rate time on those disciplines at first until you actually want to push harder. So getting that volume. So if I'm not a good biker, every time I get on a bike, my butt hurts and I just don't really have the capacity to get my heart rate up very well on the bike, but I love running. I want to spend a little bit more time with that base training on the bike so that I learn to love it. I learn the comfortability on the bike, and then I can kind of push my heart in the running, right? And then eventually, because I'm doing more of that biking, I get more comfortable at it and I can start to add some of those hard workouts. But bouncing back and forth is great. It allows us to avoid injury and build those skills for whatever the race brings us.